welcome to another CineBeards. My name is Dion Fan Heerden, and here with me are...
People are gonna think I just used a soundboard.
That's the idea.
That's the point?
Alright. Hello and welcome to yet another CineBeards. There are so many of these things now. Here in the studio with me is Jason, your usual host, who is sitting out today. And
Goodbye, I guess.
across from me is Marcus Light, and next to him is Marcus Heavy.
Hey!
Marcus Class.
And by our powers combined,
We are Marcus Medium?
I'm just waiting for Jason to... Oh god, Marcus Medium solves crime by speaking to the dead.
I would watch that show. Thanks, can we make that show?
yes,
Yes.
it's already in
We've got a lot
production.
of free time at the moment. We can film this.
I'll call Graham. I'll call him on Monday.
Marcus.
Call Graham, get us a budget, we'll knock it out over the weekend.
I'm really disappointed in Jason though. Like, I'm trying to do such an appalling job that he just stops me and takes over, but he has yet to.
Well,
Fucking
no,
lazy.
because it just reflects on you.
It reflects on you. This is your product.
It reflects on us.
I don't care about my consumers. He's all here.
Valve, is that you?
Hey, you got
I'm
more
going to
fans
curate
than
this by not editing it at all, and you can just not listen to the parts you don't want to listen to.
me. It's the true Valve experience.
We'll give you a skip button, and the rest is up to you.
The
Up
rest
to our
is in
users,
God's
yeah.
hands.
Put this up on SoundCloud, and users can just tag the parts they don't like, and you
Yeah.
can skip those if you want. Yeah, it's a good plan.
Good business
Alright,
acumen.
so the reason Dion so poorly introduced us this week is because he suggested this week's topic, Kathleen Kennedy and her SJW agenda.
Yes.
Wow, we need to just take a step back here. Alright, good luck editing this, future Jason.
Thank God this is the one you've got more than a week to edit.
The actual theme of this week's episode is indie horror movies that you might have missed.
Good
As you
save.
probably read in the title, so I don't know what that whole Kansas City shuffle was. You already knew the outcome. Then you clicked on the title of the video.
They think you don't know type of Kansas City hustle. All right.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
That's how McConaughey won the Oscar.
I lure you guys in with indie horrors.
And then deliver indie horrors. Ah, the old switcheroo. This isn't tennis. This is anal
Well,
sex.
that actually, thematically, that is how magic works. It's like,
Yeah.
you pick a card,
And then
the
lies.
magician gives it back to you. Like, this is
You're like,
whoa! Holy,
This is my expectation.
This is the podcast I clicked on. Oh my god!
Thanks,
How did
Alec
they do
Guinness. Whew.
All right,
Rip roaring start.
all right. So indie horror films you may have missed.
I know I've missed a couple.
So I'm assuming, seeing as we like to go into these blind, and we suggest that people go into it blind, we're just gonna fire off a list of movies.
I realized
could do that.
afterwards, after suggesting it, that it's probably a really terrible idea, specifically for that reason. Like, I like going into these films. Like, I didn't even read the tagline. I didn't even look at the poster.
Yeah.
Like, so this is exactly the kind of thing I would not listen to.
Leon, what's your turn now? What's gonna be the general structure of this episode?
I don't know. You asked for a theme, and I gave you one. Everything else is your problem. I'm a science fiction writer who says flying cars. Then 50 years later, when someone actually works out the mechanics, I take the credit. Oh, science fiction is so prescient. Artificial intelligence. Oh my god, these guys were geniuses.
Wait a minute, I need to take that
1984 is
mask
an
off.
instruction manual.
Gene Roddenberry?
Right. So the horror movie podcast.
Horror movie. Oh yeah, indie horror movies.
Indie horror movies.
There've been a whole bunch of good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to give away details on any of them. So look for the list in the description below.
Oh, really? The
Plugs-
list in the description, of which there's never been one in the history of this fucking podcast.
Okay, everyone's plugs.
One viewer actually pointed that out.
Yeah,
It was
viewer.
like, well, listener, it was on YouTube, so technically a viewer because it says so
Looking at
many
the
views.
picture.
But
Waiting for it
somebody
to
mentioned
move.
like I looked for the links in the description,
I remember.
but they weren't there. Then again, I guess you did say it depended on how lazy you were.
Just look for the links in your heart.
If you believe, if you truly believe, you will surely get them.
Look, you found this podcast. Clearly, you know how a computer works.
It's like a crazy.
Or at least Google.
Exactly.
yeah,
I'm a Valve, you guys. Just Google it.
You clearly know how a computer works. Could you show me?
Just so
How
I
do
can
I do a
test
link,
you.
but like one of those ones where it's blue, so you can click on it? Do I just change the
you mean
color
a
in the
mega
text?
link?
No, a super link.
Or an ultra link?
It's a link that just over exaggerates
A
things.
super link on the
You
internet
mean the best link
hyperhighway.
there's ever been?
Yeah, it's the greatest link that's ever been.
Okay.
The link that seals the darkness. That's the one.
A link between worlds.
No, that doesn't resonate at all. Like just as a concept, as a thing or a title. That's just
Oh, so was that
doesn't-
just bad?
yeah. That's just
It's
a shit.
never
Again,
been
anyway,
the case.
I will-
We'll workshop. We'll
Yeah.
workshop.
Anyway, I was really looking forward to this episode because I know I've missed a ton of Hindi horror.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to this episode
Little
in the
did you
car
know.
on the way here when Jason told me,
Yeah.
because I've seen a lot of indie horror
Yeah.
films in the last year.
So that's why
The
you're
joke's
here.
on both of you, because this is just an episode of us waffling, apparently.
Fair play,
my
you
question though
scamp.
is should we do a per film like non-spoiler spoiler, but that seems very like drawn out, or should we just talk and like if you're the kind of person that likes to go in dry, stop listening at this point and we'll put a list in the description below.
Really, a list in the...
I've got a week and 2 days to do this. Well, technically, I've got like as long as it takes Mario Rabbids DLC to download tomorrow to do this.
If I could record those the Saber Wolf guitars for Gentle Wolf, you can put links in the description.
I don't know. What's my budget?
Hey, if I could start and then abandon an entire YouTube channel on my own,
Then
you
so
can
can I!
You got us there.
Okay, so all right, so we're gonna talk about them. We're gonna talk about the conceits, and if you're the kind of person who doesn't like that sort of thing, well, read the description below.
Yeah, no.
And everything else
will
is on you.
actually just put a few things in the description below this
Yeah.
time.
fantastic.
Cool.
And I definitely won't forget and then edit this after upload to contain the list below.
I should also point out that when we talk about indie horror films, we might mention a few lower budget studio films.
Yeah, I think
As
that
well.
I
I
think
think 'cause
that
they don't
qualifies.
necessarily-
They're not major league blockbusters.
Yeah, we're not talking about The Conjuring here, but we're also those are
Yeah.
sort of major studio things. But I think a few things like something like The Witch, for instance, which is
well, it's A24. It's not a major league production house.
Yeah.
A24 is an independent production house like Blumhouse.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Blumhouse I still kind of consider a heavy hitter.
Blumhouse they co-publish everything that
Yeah.
they put out. They don't
Yeah.
put it out by themselves. A24 does their own ones, and then they will subcontract a whole bunch of other little mini production houses as well. So I would say anything that A24 does, because most of my list is A24, so
nice.
don't
Yeah.
exclude it.
All right, cool. So
And I would argue that most of Blumhouse films would also count purely because of their budgetary constraints. I mean, they make a lot of their horror movies on less than $10 million budget.
no, I think that's still
I
studio.
think that's a thing of the past. To be
Yeah.
honest, they've been doing
Yeah,
bigger and bigger
Blumhouse
budget
is
stuff.
Blumhouse is too big to really like. Any of their sort of in-house stuff is too
Yeah,
big
exactly.
to
So
count.
first movie we should talk about, Get Out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we should talk about it.
Yep. These small indie horrors.
Small little indie horrors. All right, cool. So the first one, which I've found myself recommending to a lot of people the last while, is The Witch.
Absolutely.
It's a film that I think a lot of people overlooked. It doesn't have that traditional, like, or the very popular sort of hook that's going at the moment. It's not an exorcism film. It's not a family trapped in a house film. You know, it's very much a film about frontiers and about superstition.
And it's nice and slow burning.
It is
Yeah.
exceptionally slow burn, and it's got that kind of isn't it?
Yeah.
That comes along with the superstition, and that's heightened by the utter aloneness of the frontier, and the fact that it's done marvelously well in Old English.
Yeah,
in Old Frontier
and
English, so
the
faithfully.
language actually, most of it pulled from actual court
which
documents
is
from the time.
amazing.
Yeah.
And it's done really faithfully, and
So watch it with subtitles if you're one of those people that needs subtitles when someone speaks in a British accent in the
yeah,
film.
or if you need to watch a Shakespeare and you need the subtitles, you're definitely going to need them here.
I think that's most people.
Well,
to be honest, if they're using authentic pronunciation,
True.
it is.
Thankfully, you can watch it on Netflix with subtitles.
Netflix?
Yes.
What's that?
A streaming service that has that film on it.
When would we ever find horror films on a Netflix?
What? How
Yeah.
else? It's 2018.
What I like about it as well is that whole sense of you're not really sure if there's anything really supernatural happening. You don't know if this
That's
is
the
sort of
coolest
psychology.
part.
Yeah, it's this whole frontier thing. It's people isolated, small, limited resources, you know, where a town is bound together by its religious fervor, and if you go against that, you become an outcast, and you have no recourse. Like, what do you do? That alone is terrifying, and then you're facing this frontier, this dark forest.
Also,
And you don't know what's in there, and there were some fucking dark folk tales
Yeah.
back then, and it's like, is it real? Isn't it real? Is it real? Either way is horrifying.
And I liked it because the subject matter's cool, and the dialogue was cool, and the acting was pretty solid as
Very good acting as well, yeah. That guy's voice is ridiculous as well.
So scary.
Spooky. Super spooky. Yeah, nope, that's that one's definitely a must watch from my viewpoint.
The old Vivovich.
All right, you've got a long list. Give us one.
I do have a long list. Alright, well then I'll talk about, let's see. Transfiguration, which I have recommended. So, how spoiler do you want me to get?
Not too spoiler,
No,
but tell us
just like,
why,
okay,
as someone,
Okay,
Why
should
is it
we
a thing
care?
that we should have seen?
Yeah.
It's a thing you should have seen for the same reason why you should have watched Let the Right One In.
because you told us to.
Yes. If you like vampire films and things that are a different take on vampire films, kind of like Let the Right One In or Let Me In, depending if you watch the original Swedish or the American one with Chloe Grace Martinez.
Interview with a Vampire,
Yes.
Nosferatu.
Yes.
These are vampire movies.
Allegedly.
Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Yes.
All right,
My
cool.
favorite.
So all along, all those sorts of
Dracula
films.
2000,
No.
Queen of the Damned.
You shut up with that film. That wasn't a film. That was a music video.
That one with the two vampires who are in love.
Interview with a Vampire?
Yeah, Interview with the Vampire. It was Tom Cruise and
That's what I said.
yeah,
No.
Brad Pitt. They were in love.
No, the more recent one with handsome British man and.
Oh, an
Tilda
American
Swinton.
vampire in Paris.
Yes.
No, he's thinking about What We Do in the Shadows.
God damn it, you guys! Yes, the Twiglets.
I will remember the name of this movie.
Okay, but yeah, this is I think it's also an A24 production. I'm pretty sure.
50 Shades of Grey.
Let me finish my fucking thing.
You're not being very professional, Thomas.
I know I'm anything but.
But
Yeah, a horror movie set in America, the backdrop of which is kind of poor inner city black youth. And what I would imagine one of the more realistic, in big inverted commas, takes on vampirism to kind of be.
Only lovers left alive. I done googled it and I found it.
Nice. Never heard of that.
Not a crazy person.
I've never heard of that in my life.
And all 5 of you are idiots for thinking
I
that.
thought you were talking about warm bodies, but that was zombies, not vampires.
Anyway, back to my thing.
so the movie you're talking about is Transfiguration.
Yeah, it's called Transfiguration.
And it's sort of
It's got
inner
some
city.
inner city poor
urban horror.
urban horror kind of, with a really heavy emphasis on the psychological aspect of the transformation of like a person into a vampire. And I really liked it mostly because the two main characters are not kids, but they're, you know, I think they're like 12 or 13, and fuck me, is there some serious acting in that movie. And it's really nice to see like a different take on a trope that we've seen so many times. Just like the Vivovich is a nice take on something we've seen so many times.
When you say there's like really good acting in there, do you mean like there's people that can they can cry on command?
Yes.
Jesus.
I like it's the top tier.
That's quite good acting.
It's
That's acting.
They're the Daniel Day-Lewis of Bloodborne.
Wow.
Oh.
So
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Transfiguration is really cool. I like the acting a lot. I like the subject matter. It is very minimal score as well, which really helps it. It feels quite authentic. The acting feels good.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely give it a look.
No, that sounds good. And that's exactly the right level of spoilery, I think.
That's a little
Yeah.
spoiler. Okay,
That's
cool.
I think that's our
I'll-
baseline.
Yeah.
I'll maintain that sort of.
Okay,
That's a
Marcus.
good baseline. I actually haven't watched independent horror movies in so long.
Boo, get out.
That's why I'm here, to learn about these things.
Okay.
Sounds convenient.
But it is convenient. But
Me too. Actually, the whole reason I like suggest this topic is I was
You're
too
just
lazy.
slowly
I
writing
was too
things
lazy
down.
to send. I was too lazy to send Jason a WhatsApp message saying like, "Hey, dude, are there any good indie horror films that I haven't seen yet that you can recommend?" I was like, that's just a long message to type.
And voice notes on your thing. You don't like recording your voice and hearing it back.
No.
oh, who sends voice notes? Anyway, the most recent, I wouldn't call it independent, but definitely low budget, was Hush, which I mentioned briefly
Yeah,
last week.
good one.
Which is
Hold on a second. You've seen it, right?
I have seen it.
Yeah.
You can,
It
leave,
is-
you can leave the room and then Marcus can talk about it a bit more, and you'll definitely not ever have to hear it.
I definitely won't.
I
hear
mean, it's
this.
not like you've got to
Well,
edit it or anything.
Well, basically, I've got a week in which to watch Hush.
Yeah, no, see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
We're just putting an expiry date on it. So
I mean, we record these
in
day
situ,
before release.
For
they're,
sure.
they're recorded
We're wearing-
and put up on YouTube at the
We're
same
wearing
time.
different
Yeah.
clothes to last time.
Yes.
I'm actually
As you can hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're wearing clothes this time.
It's a step
Which is
forward.
good.
Good boy.
But yes, so
The
Hush.
family are far less uncomfortable.
Jokes on them for later.
Yeah.
So Hush is pretty much, the main setup is like, it's a classic home invasion type of horror, right? You've got someone trapped in a house, much like how Jason is now trapped within his beard.
Well, you're welcome.
Never
You're
mind.
welcome. You're welcome to step out.
I'm actually going to just move away slightly.
And he's physically moving away.
It's a good thing
But,
Marcus
yeah.
has such a quiet, non-booming voice.
Quiet, non-baritone.
Yeah. Oh,
Don't
my
project.
God. I won't project at all.
Oh, damn, he projected. Yeah. Okay,
You
go.
heard- you
Go
heard-
for it. Go.
So
Go.
Hush is a home invasion type of horror with the very interesting hook that the person trapped in the house is deaf. So she cannot hear the assailant at all. And they portray it, I think, very well in the movie because there's also a lot of silence
There is.
in the film
It's
itself.
really
Yeah.
quite, to use that term, oppressive silence.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it is almost, it's very unnerving because through most of the film you also don't know who this assailant is, what his deal is, or why he's even there. And they actually never really explain it. It's just, this woman is trapped, there is a threat, go.
And
Yeah.
it provides a fantastic caveat to the old horror trope of, why didn't you hear that? Why didn't,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
aren't you,
And I feel
you
it
as the
feels pretty
person-
realistic in terms of reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very well researched. I think she, as an actor, does really a good credit to that sort of disability. I think it's a fair showing.
Also, the bit of trivia we were discussing earlier.
Yes. Yeah, where they, basically the two actors, because there's only really the two actors in the film.
There's one other sort of
There's
ancillary
the
character.
neighbours.
Yeah, the neighbour
Not really
character.
super important. Yeah.
But the two actors who were actually performing it basically workshopped it like a play and had to move like when they got to the house, which was the actual set, they had to move a lot of things around to
Yeah.
sort of make it work, and
Rescripted it a little bit.
rescript it like on the fly, and that sort of there's a sort of frantic energy to it in places where it actually just feels right. That yes, that is exactly how a person would probably react in this situation.
Yeah, and it's someone you can see that they paid attention. It's not just a generic house. They paid attention to their set. That someone who knew their house inside and out, like these are the things that person would do.
Yeah.
This is not just like I'm gonna go hide in the linen closet.
Especially because, like, I don't know, maybe this is just me projecting, but I suppose if I had some sort of, hectic disability, like being, mute or deaf, I would want a specific plan just in case anything went really wrong, and I needed to call the police, or I needed to defend myself from an attacker. I would want to have a plan in place, and that kind of shows she's not, I wouldn't say more prepared than the average horror movie protagonist, but it just seems like it's less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel right. She feels intelligent.
Yes.
She feels like she's reacting as well as a person can,
Yes.
while being panicked and fearing for their life, and also hyper aware of the fact that like she can't hear but her assailant can.
And there's a really cool thing that, when you're in a normal horror movie as a normal person and you're walking
Whoa.
around. Yeah, I said that. And you're walking around and you're trying not to make noise. Now, imagine that from the perspective of someone that doesn't know if they're making noise.
They could be stepping on squeegee toys.
Like, they could have, like, they could have the shoes from Kung Pao. Like,
Yeah, that's terrifying.
That's a really, like, hectic
Yeah.
thought.
And yeah, I mean,
How do you
can
be
see,
stealthy if you don't understand sound?
super low budget,
Yeah.
but really well made, well acted, well choreographed.
Agreed.
And it never felt like a lot of times in these horror films, you have to have that suspension of disbelief, like. Why would anyone do that? Like, I never had that feeling in
I
this film.
didn't feel that
Yeah.
at all.
No, I did. It's like, but the way the assailant handles the situation to try and get the upper hand on the
Yeah.
victim,
Yeah,
And the way she
it
reacts.
also feels believable.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's clearly insane, but
Yeah.
he's a horror movie antagonist. That's kind of what you
the
expect.
stable of
So watch Hush.
Watch Hush.
It's good. Jason Return.
And I can't believe like that thing happened.
Oh.
Oh, God!
And then she grows a third head.
Yeah.
Yo, dude, it's crazy.
Oh, you
up
don't know
in
about
here.
the first two? Oh,
She starts off head-
It's like it's like crazier than Annihilation, man.
Fuck that movie.
Shut up! I haven't seen it yet.
Meh.
Maybe I'll disagree with you, and I'll love it.
Well, then you're wrong, so that's fine.
Oh shit!
You should watch it to form your own opinion.
No, listen to Thomas. Thomas is right.
No, Tom, is a movie they made for the fans.
Oh,
Dad.
shit, sorry.
Dads don't fight.
Okay, so
Alright,
Jason,
Jason.
it's your turn.
Your turn.
Yeah, I'm just looking for a little conversation that Dion and I had earlier in the week where he asked me.
Oh yeah, I was making a list of recommendations for someone else, and then asked him to fill in some gaps.
The one I want to talk about is that German one we watched about the German one called Mother, about those two boys whose mother has a reconstructive surgery, and they're convinced that she is no longer their mom.
For disambiguation, this is not the mother exclamation mark.
No, this is not. Oops, it's all allegory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the film made by Darren Aronofsky.
No, it's a German horror by the name of Mother, and it's genuinely unsettling, especially for somebody who's not a fan of the kinders, or children as humans call them.
Kinders, yeah. The menu humans.
Yes, just the really
Hobbits.
small,
The proto
people.
people.
Yeah, proto people.
Yeah, it was horribly unsettling, and the final reveal horror thingy at the end, it was a decent payoff for the film. Also fairly slow burning, as all these indie horrors seem to be.
Jason, your turn.
Okay,
Again.
just for
He just went, but yeah.
Just for clarification, the international release of the German film Mother is titled Goodnight Mommy.
That's why I had trouble
Okay.
finding the damn thing. Because you mentioned it, and I was like, I don't. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Goodnight Mommy.
Goodnight Mommy. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Ooh.
All right, cool.
Good.
Well, seeing as you spoke about a German one, there's one from about a decade ago that I think I should mention, a French one. Now, I know Thomas has seen this. Martyrs.
I have seen this.
Now,
I've
Martyrs,
heard of
Martyrs
before,
is
but
a
I've not done
very,
Martyr.
very unsettling horror film. Like, I almost don't want to say anything beyond it's very unsettling.
Doc
and it's
Martyrs.
French.
Yeah, lots of good shoewear.
Yeah.
Film.
No, it is. It's got a fantastic sense of creeping dread to it, and just like the visceral realness of the horror, for lack of a better term, is outstanding stuff. It's
Alright.
really worth a shot without going into anything else. I'm sure Thomas
I
would
wouldn't.
agree with
I
me.
wouldn't explain anything, to be dead honest.
Yeah, you just say, watch it for yourself.
Martyrs. you say?
Martyrs. Yeah.
Oh, Martyrs. All right. And that's French.
Yes.
Do they speak in French?
Yes.
do.
That is terrifying.
I know, but it's fine. You can get the subs.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, I prefer
And it's not exactly dialogue.
I actually prefer the dub.
You dub, man. You
I
dubs
don't
over
want
subs,
to
man.
read while I'm trying to see things.
Well, it's not very dialogue heavy either, so
No,
you know,
Spoiler.
It's not.
it's very much a visual, and the framing of some of those shots. Sorry, I'm trying to dance
Yeah,
around.
Yeah.
It's very good. Definitely watch it.
cool.
It's spooky.
Another unsettling horror movie with kids with a child that Dion and I watched a while ago was Boy.
Oh, that's the one I was going to talk about now, so.
No, please take it away.
No, you go ahead. It's... No.
Well, now I want to hear your take
Well,
on it.
Is it-
one thing I can say about Boy is that some of the... It's one of those films where you can see just so much love has been put into it, because the actual essential story is really simple. It's all about the mood and atmosphere, and it's one of those films that's just like I fucking hate this cliche, but a visual feast.
I
But it- but
that
it
can
really-
apply. Like,
yeah,
if you
but
told
it-
me, like, hey, how'd you describe Blade Runner
We-
2049? It's a visual feast.
Where I remember
It was
commenting
just
while
so
we were watching
tense.
it.
I just felt like,
Ooh, this sounds good.
But I do remember commenting to Jason that it feels like every single shot, like none of them have just been set up in a practical way. Like every shot was just beautiful. It's set in a
motel.
Yeah, motel sort of off a road, but the road is no longer very popular. Mm-hmm. It's not that widely used, so they're struggling a bit more. It's a father and his son living here.
Yeah, and because it's a horror, at some point a line is going to be crossed.
yeah,
but
you're waiting for that.
Yeah, you never
shoe to
never
drop.
know when it's going to be crossed, and it's constantly getting real close to that line.
And that is one creepy kid, well acted.
Yeah, like surprisingly good acting.
So the
by
boy, 2060,
Just Boy.
just Boy.
Yeah, it's the God of War tie-in horror film.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's
No,
got-
because the only one I can find is The Boy.
I might be wrong.
it could be the
Wait.
boy.
Could be. I just remember it being Boy.
I've got a drama comedy called Boy from 2010, but that doesn't sound like a horror. But Taika Waititi's in it, so that's a good thing.
Hey.
Oh, Taika Waititi's Boy is actually really fucking good.
Really?
Really good.
Oh, here we go. It is The Boy,
The
but it's
Boy,
2015.
but it's a different The Boy.
Oh, one
that
of
looks
those.
more right.
Yeah, that definitely looks more right.
Okay, so The Boy from 2015.
So for those of you who are wondering, it's the one that's got Rainn Wilson in it.
Rainn.
And he's
Yeah.
actually, firstly, almost unrecognizable. It took me a while to click that it was him. And B, like, very, very cool. Not like sort of a major character, but yeah, it's one of those
Yeah,
films
that screenshot says a lot about the tension of the.
Yeah. The whole
Like
thing
that.
is about people are
I like that.
inherently there's something inherently frightening about children, like not just in a joking way, but like there is something inherently frightening about them because you don't
The
really know them.
uncaring nature of a child.
Yeah,
is
but
just
children-
terrifying.
children
the
can be-
insect sort of brain that children have.
Children can be very sociopathic. Children can
because
be
they don't understand.
Yeah, they can. So there's always this, like, there is no child in this world that I can't picture like randomly one night just like shoving a hook into my neck while I'm asleep.
Yeah, because they don't understand empathy.
Yeah, so they just
don't
like they
understand
have this
object
thing and they're like,
permanence.
yeah, and they'll just be like, cool, I'm gonna jab this into your eye.
Because I want to see what happens.
Because I wanna
Not
see what
because
hap-
I understand life and
No,
death.
and yeah, not because they're evil necessarily. So imagine that, but like a child also having an aura of like possibly being malign.
So it's already like kind of stacked that way.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's that tension the whole time. I mean, that is one of the frightening, unpredictable things. It's fairly isolated.
Yeah, I was super tense
I
throughout the
was
whole movie.
incredibly anxious and unsettled. But yeah, beautifully filmed. Like you can really see like what they lack in budget, they make up for in just like sheer
Artistry.
effort and love.
Fantastic.
That's really nice with a lot of low budget horror films, specifically just because I've watched a couple of them. A24's ones, like Neon Demon, which
Ooh, Neon Demon.
like-
Ooh, Neon Demon.
again a visual feast, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, a
but it
visual
really
feast.
fucking
Yeah.
applies.
But seriously, Neon Demon
Seriously.
is probably in my top 3 prettiest movies.
of all time, absolutely.
Yeah, like, it's-
like you do not exaggerate in that framing, that cine, that score, that
I've actually,
pacing.
for once in my life, I've actually got time this week. Like I'm actually taking a week
should
off from work,
actually-
so yeah, that's right up there.
Oh man,
Yeah,
and
that's on my list as well. Of these two's recommendations and insistence.
Yeah.
I will insist that everybody watches that movie until
Yeah.
they watch it.
So yeah, The Boy, it looks specifically for the 2015 one. It's a boy and his father staying. So it's a primarily like masculine cast as well, which is like an interesting sort of energy to it.
Yeah, because a lot of horror movies kind of rely on ladies
Female
being scared
vulnerability,
because it's a
yeah.
vulnerability thing. It's
And it's not that at
it's
all.
as
So
opposed
yeah,
to, "Arr."
yeah. So yeah, highly recommended.
But that's
Yeah, it's
also
just unrelenting dread is how I would describe it.
yeah.
That's nice.
and that the way you describe it, it actually reminds me a bit, just the unsettling and the sort of the male protagonist reminds me a little bit of, just personally, even though I haven't seen it, of 1922. That
Yes.
Have any of you seen
yes.
that?
Yes.
I've not seen it.
So
Thomas
good.
Jane.
Yeah.
Really doing
I like
some
Thomas
acting.
Jane.
Oh, dude,
Yes.
dude, amazing. One of the best. I mean, like, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and that is just one of the. That's like right up there with like Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption in terms of like perfect adaptation.
No, it
And
is.
his-
It is a phenomenal film, and the fact that it is
and Gerald's Game.
I was just about to say, don't
Yeah.
know Gerald's Game.
Yeah.
just the fact that it is, Thomas Jane basically carrying this movie, like a male perspective in like horror is actually something that's out of the ordinary when you think about it.
Like not
Well,
not a
not
more
out of the
male
ordinary.
perspective, but in terms of him being the.
There's a reason why they call it the final girl.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
And not
him
the
being the
final
sort
guy.
of he's kind of antagonist and
Yes,
protagonist.
he's both, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
But it's really it's really interesting.
And not in the sense of I was investigating the murder the whole time and I was the murderer. It's
Yeah.
not that.
It's
Yeah.
not like Split.
No.
It's someone who's a victim of his own humanity
Yes.
and dark
and that is
impulses.
actually the entire theme.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good recommendation. That's your
recommendation.
streaming recommendation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that
Just go watch
1922.
1922 and
Yeah.
in fact do a double bill. Watch 1922 and then watch Gerald's Game.
Yeah.
Jesus
Ooh, Gerald's
Christ.
Game. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, after you told me about
If you
that.
can, my number 2 recommendation
no.
for watching horror movies, aside from going in blind, is watch them with Dion because he makes them so much worse.
Yeah, but that whole
Coming
scene-
soon, the CineBeards Dion app, where you can download a virtual Dion to watch horror movies with you.
Every now and then he goes,
Oh no! Oh Jesus Christ! No!
But I mean that scene that
you
Dion
just have to
is
type your
describing.
name in the beginning, and it'll just say things like, Thomas, why are you making me do this? Why did you do this? Thomas.
But yes, no.
Yeah, that's that scene is worth the price of admission alone. Oh jeez. But yeah, 1922, great recommendation. The Boy. All right, Thomas, give us another one.
Let's.
Tomahawk.
You do Bone Tomahawk. I'll do mine, and then you. No. I'll do mine first. And then Jason.
Oh, Dion's already gone. So
Jason's already gone.
He's already escaped.
Hey, just first we can't even tell him when we're done.
What was?
Have you seen Burnt Tomahawk, Marcus?
No.
Ooh.
How much can we talk about?
Okay, well, essentially, Bone Tomahawk is the perfect mix of Western and horror.
Yeah, two
So
genres that
And
On paper,
it's
don't
not
seem
really a mix as much as
It's a
a
blend.
Western. It's very much a Western movie with Western pacing and theme and character archetypes and stuff like that. That for the last half an hour, 20 minutes, just blends seamlessly into this terrifying, gory,
horrible
horror.
body horror, uncomfortable
there is-
anguish.
Yeah, it's
I can picture that because there is a tradition, especially with country music, like being tinged with that horror like theme, yeah, with the
Right.
blues coming
yeah, that
in.
is that is
So
actually
that,
fair.
like the
Yeah.
idea of a Western / horror does make sense to me.
But Jason cannot you cannot make this more clear how seamless it is.
It goes from like the almost snail's pace of a classic Western
yeah.
into just brutal horror. And it's not like gore porn because
No.
it's not like there's a ton of gore in it and it made me feel a little sick and uncomfortable, which is good
Yes.
from gore. But that gore was used to heighten the horror rather than just like, oh, look at this sick
Yeah,
thing.
it wasn't
oh,
gore
look at
for
this.
gore's sake. It
Yeah.
was the efficacy of which the gore. I'm
So-
gonna
It's-
say
the-
exasperated the tension.
So-
Exactly, it solidifies the stakes
Okay,
of
so
the
it's
horror
closer to
portion.
Saw 1 gore than Saw 6 gore.
Yes.
In
yes,
terms
But-
of
And that
intent
Saw 1
and
was a
effect.
good movie.
yeah,
and Saw 6 was-
if we're measuring on that metric, but it's one of the only films to make me feel genuinely uncomfortable in the last 10 years.
Okay, now I have to watch it because I have ridiculously thick skin.
No, I do too, and I think it was the pacing
it's-
of the Western almost kind of lulled me into a false sense of security to the
And-
point where when it just went
Yeah.
so hard, it turned left so hard, but
And
also
it was just, it was jarring and it was uncomfortably realistic.
yeah, that is a perfect description of the gore.
Well, that
Uncomfortably realistic.
sounds like a perfect horror movie to me. I'm gonna go watch
Oh,
it.
you know, it is definitely one of my favorite horror films of the past decade.
Absolutely. And, I'll watch Kurt Russell in any movie
Where he has a moustache.
where he
big
has a
in his
moustache
face.
bigger than his face. And for those of you horror movie aficionados, it's got Captain Spaulding in the beginning from fucking House of Thousand Corpses and The
Yeah.
Devil's Rejects. He's right in the beginning of the film.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Sounds like a disturbing time.
It really is. I cannot recommend it enough.
Indeed.
As a massive fan of Western.
Yeah.
Hey, I got those Western questions right.
Just
Yeah.
so Dion's here so he can hear it. Bone Tomahawk, one of my favorite horrors of the last decade.
I echo that sentiment, and it's one that should be watched.
Tone Bomberhawk, am I right, guys?
Oh, Dion back with the singer!
Yeah!
Radical, dude!
Bring in the brevity!
That's just neat.
Yeah, so now that Dion's back, let's talk about the Neon Demon.
Let us talk about the Neon Demon.
Do not talk about the Neon Demon. I also need to see it, and I have to go in blind.
Alright, then I will talk about Raw.
Yes.
So, it is also a French film. I would argue that the theme is coming of age.
You seem totally convinced.
Well,
You seem A, convinced, and B, really reassuring.
okay, I'm trying to quantify it in a context other than horror.
Theme, you say? Sounds
Theme, I
pretentious.
say. Well, you know me.
That's just
pretentious.
Thomas.
Sad and pretentious. Thomas, TM. But yeah, it's
The word is-
TMS.
Thank you.
The word is looking for is sassy. You better pray he don't find it.
What am I talking about? Shirley Two Voice.
But yeah, it is a French horror film about a girl experiencing coming of age in a truly horrific sense. And has got again some really, really nice cinematography. Some really, really, really fucking uncomfortable themes that, as a man, I wasn't quite.
Are we talking like Gerald's Game here?
No.
Are we talking like teeth here?
No, really uncomfortable themes tinged with really, really nice graphic horror aspects, and with a backdrop of, I suppose, a coming-of-age story. French movie, really good acting. I was happy with it. The cine, again, blew me away. I will absolutely recommend it.
What's it called?
Raw.
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 R-A-W-E.
Yes. Because it's
Okay,
French.
Okay, R-A-W-E, silent Q-U-E-O-U-G-H,
the face
because
of
it's
a
French.
rat.
Yeah.
It's the face of a rat then.
A rat emoji.
Yeah. Absolutely watch it. It's also a nice slow burn.
Nice.
Make you really uncomfortable.
Sweet.
That's good. That's what I want horror movie to do.
That's
Yeah,
what
no,
I'm
that-
Make Dion and I uncomfortable, so Dion
and
blaming
I-
me for making him watch the movie.
I'm almost 100% sure that this is also an A24 production.
All right. So that's really good because it's supplementing our Disney income.
I was just about to say, it's not Disney money, but A24 is giving us a nice...
A24 is giving us cool merch.
Yeah,
They got no
sweet.
money, but like cool
Yeah,
merch.
sweet merch.
And Netflix is
They
paying
did
us
give
an
me a
exposure.
Krabby. So.
Get you a Black Phillip plushie.
Nice, and 15% off at Bed Bath and Beyond.
Beyond hell.
Ew. Nice. Yeah, well, another one we do need to talk about is the Babadook.
It's not really one that people have missed.
Yeah, I think that was
Like,
pretty
that's
high
like saying
profile.
another one we need to talk about is It Follows. Everybody's fucking seen it already.
That's fair enough. It follows, yes. Babadook, I've actually met a
A24.
lot of people who haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. Alright, then throw it out there.
Yeah, no.
Okay, well then we can do it really brief, because then, I mean,
Everyone's seen it.
I was under the impression a lot of people hadn't, judging from people I've spoken to. Where
should speak to
everyone's
better
seen,
people.
yeah, where everyone's seen It Follows, a lot of people hadn't seen the Babadook.
All I know
Interesting.
is the first half an hour of the Babadook is my personal nightmare and my biggest fear.
Yeah, being a single mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quite
With
literally,
a
being a
troubled
single mother
child.
to a troubled child is my biggest fear.
That's
Yeah.
horrifying.
And I hope you
Couldn't
never
imagine.
have to experience that.
I hope so too.
Me too.
But you know,
I was a
things
little
happen.
too tender on the arm touch there.
Or was it not tender
Probably
enough,
pregnant
Jason?
with a single child now.
Oh no!
And a woman version of yourself? It's a weird pregnancy.
But yeah,
Aren't they
Babadook. Babadook. If anyone has been putting off watching it because of
Why?
I'm not sure. Like, it just most people hadn't seen it because they thought that it was like that the Babadook as like a monster was sort of front and center, and they thought it was just like the impression they got from the marketing was like a mother and a child being chased around by like a shadow monster.
What was that
That's
other
sort
one?
of-
With the red.
or need.
No, with the red and black demon monster creature.
Oh,
Insidious.
Insidious. Yeah.
It's like
that-
the first Insidious
that's
where
kinda-
people like assumed it's a monster movie, but
that
it
sort
turned
of
out not to
marketing
be.
can do a massive disservice
Yeah.
to movies, especially horror movies. Like a movie I've recommended countless times is It Comes at Night, and the trailer for that could not be more different than the movie you watch. Like the
I will not hear the trailer nor the explanation.
okay,
for that
no,
movie.
I won't elaborate because either way, it'll spoil you on the directionality of the film. But know that the trailer, it felt like the trailer was basically cut by a different studio that didn't really understand what
Or
they
they just got random clips.
Yeah, like they got like random clips and they just cut it together, and like it almost felt like there was stuff in the trailer that wasn't even in the movie.
Yeah.
And like the
So the trailer tried to pull a drive.
yes.
Horror films are hard to market, though. In
They
all
are
fairness,
because
Yeah,
of
because
you
peop-
don't want to give the
you-
big
yeah.
scares, but you also do because
or
you
even
want
the-
You want to show
come
people
back.
that there are big scares,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the second you give away any of them, the movie loses impact when they actually see it.
yeah. So you have to get butts in seats, but like something like the Babadook. How on earth do you market that?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, how do you market it other than
I never
a
saw
movie
a
which is
trailer.
like-
monster movie?
I never saw a trailer for it, so I don't actually know how you would market that.
I'm very keen after this to just check it out because it's like, okay, a mother and a troubled son,
Yeah.
and like the boy just screams a lot and it's all horrifying, intense, and you're wondering like what the conceit
Like
is.
the trailers did make it look like a monster movie.
Yeah, and then the second half, and I mean the monster, being more like a thematic monster more than like a literal boogeyman.
The trailers portrayed it more as this is an actual physical monster chasing the
and
boy.
it looks a little silly
Yeah.
out of context. So it looks a bit like the Crooked Man in Conjuring 2.
Like, if you just saw that, you'd be like, what am I watching?
Yeah, exactly. So I can understand why a lot of people gave it a pass. So if you did, watch it. Just I get heartburn when I think about it. So anxious.
Another movie, also probably not independent, but that was sort of misrepresented by its marketing for what it actually is.
The Exorcist. I'm glad someone finally had the guts to say it.
Yes, that was
all
a
these
terrible
years.
pea soup commercial. I'm actually talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane. The good Cloverfield.
yes.
The good Cloverfield
That's
movie.
it. That's the I haven't that was the second one,
That's
right?
the
The
second one
episode
with
of John
John
Goodman.
I
Goodman.
actually just
John
watched,
Goodman, one of John Goodman's finest.
I actually
Yeah.
just watched
Yeah.
the first one recently and still have to watch that. But I'll just sit here like this.
No, it's fine. Like, the only thing I'll say is it's a small cast, enclosed space. Watch it.
Yeah.
Ensemble cast, good acting,
Yeah.
all the pressures of.
Because I
Confined
know
space.
from what I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard there was some complaint around the marketing because they
Yeah.
used like a lot of footage from. Oh, the same complaint was for the recent one, like the clusterfuck one.
Yeah.
Where they use a lot of footage from the first
Yep,
one.
they did
Yes.
Is it okay? Yeah, that's a pity. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I've heard really good things
Yeah, no,
about it.
it's basically, and you don't even need to have watched the first one
Yeah,
because
it's Cloverfield in name, really.
Yeah,
Because I think
it's-
they're using it as like an anthology
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Stuff that's happening, the event.
yes. So you won't be lost if you haven't seen the first one, and it's
That's good to know.
completely different from the first one in tone, style, everything.
Nice.
And then the third one doesn't count.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's-
that was
on a
also. Yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane is also super high tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ooh,
Very
I'm-
tense.
okay,
A
that's
lot of second guessing.
that's jumped way up the list now. So
No,
yeah,
it should.
I need to check that.
It's yeah.
Because I enjoyed Cloverfield 1, but I also felt that the scale of it, like that suspension of disbelief the whole time, like that the camera still, like that kind of thing, like on that scale, like that ruined it a little bit for me.
I
didn't feel
as-
it lived up to the hype, and I like the idea of a smaller, more contained.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a rule of thumb, I don't like the found footage
Yeah,
genre.
like handycams.
I don't like the found footage genre. It's not for me.
The funny thing is, I love it. I love the idea.
The only found footage genre movie that I've really enjoyed was Creep.
Yes, I still want to get to Creep. The one that I want to just quickly mention because he said anthology. Well, you said
I
anthology.
said anthology.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
said anthology.
I
and
mean,
horror.
I know we're both white guys with beards and glasses, but come on.
You all look the same to me. Was VHS 2
The
specifically?
VHS collections are so good.
Because there's a
I'm
lot of people.
unfamiliar.
There's a lot of people.
okay,
you watched it with me, didn't you? Oh
They're-
my
okay,
god, this is
they're
really
cheating on me
embarrassing.
so much. Okay, they are
Okay.
this series of short horror stories that are done really low budgets, and most of them,
Yeah, by
almost all
different
of them,
directors.
yeah, are handycam. And there's VHS 1, VHS 2, VHS Viral.
Okay, I've heard that VHS 1 and VHS Viral aren't as good.
They're absolutely not, but as an experience, I
Lucky-
think they're definitely something you should watch.
Yeah.
2 is far and away
so good.
the best.
So wait,
of
you
them.
you haven't seen that?
No.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Yes, it is such a good time.
Because all of the horror stories are completely different.
Yeah, it's
They're
basically
all-
they
all over
got
the
a
map.
bunch of horror directors, a lot of them who have done feature films, and they said, listen, trim away all the fat. You don't have to worry about filling 90 minutes.
Do
you don't have to worry
20
about
minutes.
exposition. Yeah, you've got 20 minutes to do a horror story, and like here's a bit of money.
3, 2, 1, go.
Do whatever the fuck you want.
There was
Like,
and
they do
it is
some really cool stuff.
there was
so
another
good.
horror anthology with the same sort of premise that I
ABCs
saw.
of Death. ABCs of Death.
No, it was. I can't even remember. It aired as like a TV show, but it was also these horror directors, each doing like an anthology style story. One of them had to do with the film that killed
good.
you
Half
if you
an hour.
watched it.
Goose?
Oh, the Ring.
No, it wasn't The Ring or Goosebumps,
Monster
but it
Blood.
was something like that. But no, what I was saying.
This
that's
is about a world full
neither.
of soggy children.
Stop
That-
telling
that's-
people
that's
about
not
a
the
super
hero
good
there.
idea.
That's neither here nor there. But Quarantine is a terrible found footage film.
Yes,
But-
Quarantine I like.
You should watch the original, the Spanish.
one, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wait, wasn't that Rick?
Yes.
Quarantine.
That's what I've been telling you about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rick.
you
Yeah,
have.
yeah. It's so good.
Like
Rick is cool.
Quarantine is like Quarantine messes up, and Wreck doesn't.
yeah,
for me.
Rick was so
Wreck
solid.
was tight,
Yeah.
and everything, and the reveals, the twists, everything that
Super good.
happens just works. And then Quarantine tried to Americanize it, so
Yeah.
if you have the chance, watch Wreck above
Yeah.
Quarantine.
Watch Rick
For sure.
first.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
watch both. Because I think Quarantine,
never
although...
watched
Quarantine's
Quarantine.
with the lady from Dexter.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Quarantine, while not specifically a spooky movie, is thoroughly entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it that, but I
But
just
Wreck is...
prefer Wreck.
I'm saying, watch both.
Yeah.
Watch Wreck first. Though.
Yeah, if,
Yeah.
if you're gonna get to watch one, watch Rick.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Unless
So
you're one of those people
what I'm
who
getting
can't.
from this is Quarantine is a movie I should watch.
Correct.
Oh no, Jason, no. Jason.
Like regular Jason, but with lens flares.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned Creep.
Yes.
Creep was fantastic, and it's another one. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's one of those where I spent the first 40 minutes maybe trying to figure out what the conceit is. Like what is the twist? What's
have we all
going?
seen Creep, yeah?
No,
Yes.
I added it onto my list. It is on Netflix.
And the sequel,
And the sequel
which
is
is apparently
also
really
there.
There's a
good.
sequel.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
and it
we
came
saw
out of
it
nowhere,
on
and it's
ours.
apparently really, it's actually more highly rated.
Than the original.
Sort of critics'
Shit.
ratings, more highly rated than the first one.
I'll check that.
Both are on
Because
Netflix.
that sound from the first one still
Yeah.
resonates with me.
Yeah, so that is excellent. If you like found footage, and you like,
Even if you don't like, I dislike found footage.
Yeah,
and
That's why I said
enjoyed
you
the
should
shit out
watch
of
Wreck
Creep.
because it is good found footage.
yeah.
I think it's hard to do found footage.
The Blair Witch is
well.
serviceable.
I was actually gonna say Blair Witch, especially
The new one, or
No,
No,
the
no.
OG.
OG Blair Witch.
The new Blair Witch was pretty good as well.
I don't rate it nearly as high as the first
Well, you
one.
can't because it's basically just a remake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
but-
first one was lightning in a bottle, literally.
Yeah, no, but
No, the
I
first
think
one like kicked off the whole found footage.
Yeah, the
genre.
first one was like also had the advantage of the internet being really
Yeah.
young, so that they could
Yeah,
they could
people-
run
they
all
could
that.
like
was, yeah.
viralize, like, oh, this actually
Yeah.
happened. Oh my god,
Yeah.
did it happen?
Yeah,
You
they
can't
could
actually-
run with that conceit.
I bought into that. Okay,
Everyone
Oh,
did.
dude, everyone did. My problem with the second one is there were a lot of found footage shots that were very clearly not found
Yeah.
footage. Like with the found footage genre, obviously it's not all a handy cam
Mm.
or just going in dirty. But there were
What-
very clearly like a camera on a tripod
What
with
I-
a wide angle lens.
What I really liked about the remake was the addition of claustrophobia.
yes.
That underground scene, and like I think I might disproportionately rate it simply because A, it wasn't the clusterfuck that I was expecting, and B,
True.
because they added that, which for me is about as terrifying as anything can be on
Is that a
film.
personal?
That's like that fucking scene in The Visit. The M. Night
Oh,
Shyamalan
underneath the-
house.
underneath the porch,
That
right. No.
is like that's just. That's
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
that's
oh,
like
oh.
that's like putting Jason in a room full of dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Hush has that as well.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm expecting. it.
Oh no!
Well, you really
You're
are
expecting-
pregnant.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
You're gonna give birth to a
horrors are coming
You're gonna give birth to a single mother, and she's gonna give birth to a child.
this?
But yes.
Speaking of movies about nightmare realms, No, continue. Blair Witch.
But yeah, no. Well, I'm just mentioning that I thought it was pretty decent. And you know, Rec's really good, found footage. But the other one was The Ritual, which is not entirely.
I will step out.
The Ritual's not found footage.
Yeah,
at all.
it's not
No.
found footage, but it feels to me like the Blair Witch grown up.
Yes. Very
And
much
it gives me that same sense. I'm not going to give anything away. It gives me
Okay.
that same sense of immediacy and
Yeah.
fear that the Blair Witch does, but without actually having to resort to
And
shaky
also
cam.
that
Yeah.
beautiful coupling with the isolation factor.
Yes.
Yeah, the location, beautiful.
Yeah, because they
really,
filmed
really
on
good.
location.
Yeah,
in
really
Sweden
just
or
beautiful.
Finland.
Like,
In the nightmare realm.
In the night.
actually,
Yeah.
just close your ears for like 20 seconds. And for me, like the psychology of the
dealing with post-traumatic stress.
yeah, that
coupled with
like that little
hallucination.
extra
Like
bit
the
of
scene where he would run through the grocery store
Yeah.
into the forest and
Yes.
like it would all
where,
melt
but like that
together.
opening, that scene where they're all together, beginning, and then there's the rob.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't see
Oh
that
my
coming
God.
at all,
That
and the
was
way
so
that feeds
brilliant.
into their interactions
Yeah.
throughout the whole
and,
film.
Like, just quickly, the fucking creature design.
Yeah, super good. I do wish they'd shown less.
I do, but I felt that
Always.
but
But
again,
for
I
what
felt
there
that the
was-
reveal was super fucking solid.
And yeah, and well, we're not giving away like the big
No,
aspect of it,
no.
but yeah, the design was really good. It felt like authentically like what people living in those regions would imagine,
Exactly,
and would
like in their
fear,
darkest
and would
nightmares.
see, because you obviously your eyes play tricks. So like,
Yes.
if you were to see a monster,
What would your
That's what it
darkest?
would-
What would
that's
the,
what it
what
would
would the
look
back
like.
of your mind tell you it looks like?
yeah, really good. Okay,
Yeah, cool.
Jason, we need to have spooky weekends again.
Yes.
We do, but somebody's always busy and cancelling, and
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, but I forgive you.
I beat you to it. I stole your punchline. How does it feel?
You're the
Dion?
bad friend. Damn it.
Another low budget horror movie that, and like this one really was like a proper low budget horror movie that like it wasn't A24, I don't think. It was from a production house I don't believe I've ever heard of. You can tell it's really low budget because the actors, you've never heard of them. You can see they're not really at the top of their acting game.
And was it super gory?
It wasn't super gory.
Okay, so it's not Passion of the Christ.
No.
Okay.
But you know, Passion of the Christ 2,
I don't
Electric
know. I'm
Boogaloo.
not a fan of the Saw movies.
Yeah. Saw Christ edition. No, this is called The Void.
Oh, I have seen that one.
Yes,
Oh,
and
is
it's-
that where someone's working in retail and then like they accidentally ring up the wrong item and have to get the supervisor
and the
over,
supervisor is Satan.
and then have to like void the sale so they can
Yeah.
ring up
And they
the
voice
customer
their
starts
soul
getting
at the same
really
time.
rude and impatient. That is fucking
And
terrifying.
by mistake, they type 666 into the cashier
then-
machine.
Well,
And
actually,
then
no, you don't have to have
reality
any of
just
this.
rends.
You don't have to have any of this extra stuff. Anyone who's worked in retail, this is horrifying.
Yeah.
Like this is just terrifying.
But no, the Void is one of the. I know it's not, but it's one of what I imagine one of the coolest adaptations of the Silent Hill franchise to be.
I found it very.
yeah?
It's very Lovecraft.
Lovecraftian.
No, it's absolutely.
Ooh.
Except like it's
Ooh.
old gods.
Super
It's old
racist.
gods. It's madness. It's cultists.
That sounds
If
good.
you've played any of the Silent Hill games, Silent Hill is very old gods and
Yeah.
Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
You know, burnt. It takes place in a hospital, so that's where like the Silent Hill imagery plays a big part.
The poster has triangles on it.
It does.
Oh, like the Zelda level design.
Yeah, exactly
Yes.
like the Zelda
Nice.
level design. It's the Zelda level design of low-grade horror films.
Oh my god.
That's maybe giving it a bit too much praise.
It's maybe it maybe is, but you know what? I thought it was like the fucking
Okay.
one of the better like properly independent.
How much can you sort of say about the vague premise without
the
giving?
vague premise is there's a group of people that
Okay.
are
Oh, my agoraphobia just kicked off. So I'm scared already.
no, you see,
It's a large group of people.
there is a small group of people,
Okay.
And they're demanding your attention.
no, not all of them.
and you're naked.
That's all right.
And they're trapped in a hospital that half of which has kind of burnt down and is closed off, and they are trapped in there by a group of cultists that wear these complete robes, and their motives are unknown, and they just know they're being kept there. And the film opens
Yeah.
The film opens with a guy running away from a burning house, and he is then taken to that hospital, and then things.
Okay, I'm in. I'm so
in,
in.
yeah.
I'm so down for a
What was
spooky
the name
weekend.
again?
It's not even funny.
The Void.
The Void.
Yeah,
Cool.
But yeah, very Lovecraftian.
I was about to ask
Silent
you what-
Hill, really, really good practical effects.
Really
I
good
think
practical
maybe
effects.
the entire budget
Ah.
went to the practical effects and
Nice.
the model design.
That was one thing, just talking about practical effects. That was one of the things that always interested me in the early Paranormal Activity films. Like how they did those practical
You know what?
effects.
You're
Yeah.
actually right.
I gotta say, I love the first Paranormal Activity,
Yeah.
especially the alternate ending, the
Yes.
original
Yeah,
ending.
the true ending.
Yeah, the much better ending.
Yeah.
Just because it's that, and I mean that's kind of a. I know it's made a
No.
$1 trillion,
I would
but
say
yeah.
in its infancy, it would be
No,
a
the first one
smaller
was
horror film.
the first one was purely an independent.
Yeah, I mean they
Horrible.
did so. It's easy to forget how much like grassroots work they did, and
Yeah.
like the slog, and they went to college campuses, and they really marketed the shit
Yeah.
out of that.
I mean, like I loved watching. Like I think the first 3, I watched them purely to check out what practical effects they
Yeah,
used
like,
and
how's
how they
practical
pulled it
effects?
off.
There's some. You're right though. Like
Because
that's
it's
one
like
thing
it
you don't
seems
often
really.
you don't think about, but
it
yeah.
seems really simple, but you
Yeah.
actually think about it, you're like, fuck, how do they do that?
Yeah,
Especially
that's
with
just from my
like, no
technical
budget.
like stagecraft background. I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to know how they pulled that off,
You bring that up almost as much as Dion brings up Star Wars.
right?
Wow.
Like, if there were a CineBeards bingo that you could play.
Marcus mentions technical theater degree.
Look, okay.
Jason receives paycheck from Disney.
Thomas
Can
is
we
shit.
talk? Can we talk about briefly? Just, I think we should make this the last one. One horror movie that I think a lot of people have forgotten about, really shouldn't have. Directed by Danny Boyle, takes place in space.
Oh, Danny
Of course,
Boyle.
talking about Sunshine.
Yeah, that movie took a left turn near the end.
I haven't seen it.
I've never seen it.
You guys have not seen Sunshine.
Is it an indie?
No.
No, what are we
Not
talking
really.
about?
It's-
Not
I've
at
not
all.
seen it.
Okay.
I've never. I think I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Danny Boyle made a horror movie, like an isolationist. It takes place on like a spaceship, and that's all I actually want to tell you.
Is it basically just the 3rd 7th of the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind?
Ooh.
No,
I see what you're going for there, and I commend your effort and the time it took you to
I
count
did
the
that.
words.
I did that.
It's
I really appreciate how long it actually took you to count the words.
I would liken it in a way to Event Horizon,
Which I just
Yo,
rewatched.
that's a bold fucking statement.
but without the the clear satanic stuff. It's
love
much
Event
more
Horizon.
like but Sunshine is much more based on the science, and Cillian Murphy's in it. So come
Ooh,
on.
I like
Yeah.
Cillian.
Nice.
Yeah, it's actually like I
Alright.
found it very underrated. People don't talk about
I will
it.
check it out as.
Any
Yeah.
more sort of shout-outs that we have for films? I just want to quickly go through that list we shared the other day.
Yeah. I mean, I can't believe you haven't seen Sunshine.
haven't
Like,
seen
you should
Sunshine.
watch it.
No, I haven't.
You really should.
Jesus
that's
wept.
that Spanish movie use.
Wreck.
That's Rick.
That's Wreck. Okay.
Yeah.
No. Oh yeah, Wreck. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
And Veronica. But
yeah,
that
Veronica was alright.
okay.
Definitely overhyped.
Yeah,
like
way overhyped.
I'm really getting tired of every sort of mid-low budget horror film running a social media campaign that talks about how people.
groundbreaking
Well,
and
no,
how
it talks
people
about how
ran
people
screaming
yeah,
out of the
people
theater.
walked
this
out of
old
the
lady died in the theater.
Oh, like
Idiot.
Netflix released the whole thing because
Oh,
Veronica,
yeah,
where it's like,
the movie that no one could sit through.
yeah, that no one could finish. It's like, well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, 'cause it was shit.
It wasn't.
Yeah,
It
it had
definitely.
nothing to do with the horror.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's not shit, and it's got some decent suspense and everything like that. But it's absolutely not
Yeah, it
as good as people are
it
saying.
blows its load a little early.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
And then loses a lot of steam after that.
yeah, a lot of horror films still haven't learned the message or learned the lesson that, like, the less you show, the better. Make it ambiguous. Let the viewer scare himself. Don't try and, don't sort of give the shit away. Because there's some genuinely good imagery. There's some like cool characters, like Mother Death and so on. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, fucking cool character. But yeah, it just sort of just fizzles. I'm not surprised people stopped watching when they did.
Yeah, because like after the reveal
It's
of the
done.
monster, then that's kind of
It's like, meh, okay.
That's one thing I like about Sunshine. It has that creep until right at the end.
it doesn't
the big
even really
reveal.
become a horror movie until like the last third.
Yeah, but that's the good thing about it.
Yeah.
It sets the scene. I'm not spoiling it, Dion. You can take that answer. It sets the scene.
Just making fun of you.
I'll make
And he
I'll make
lets it-
alarm noises if he
Yeah.
starts doing the spoilers.
and it lets it run. You know, it just sets it up and lets it run its course.
Yeah.
It's
Alright.
a very organic feeling.
So
movie.
I think we've given people quite a few.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you people should go
Look
watch some
up.
damn horror movies.
fucking
Which horror
horror
movies?
Yeah.
movies.
So my suggestion this week, I actually got two. One because it's still in theaters here, Hereditary.
Yeah.
If you want some horror, go
Which
watch
we're
that.
gonna go watch right now, motherfucker.
And then obviously Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out this Friday.
Watch it, you plebs.
Plebs. And then as for like the Blu-rays and the streamings and all of that, I mean we've literally
I think we
just
just
been
gave you
recommending
fucking a
things.
bucket load.
The whole-
so-
Yeah,
thingy.
go to if for streaming, go to Netflix and look at the horror category. You'll find things like Creep in there and Quarantine, 1922, The Ritual.
And if you can't find them
Gerald's
there,
game.
if you can't find
Gerald's
them
game.
there, Amazon Prime will pick up your slack.
Yes,
Yep.
which you can get legally in this country.
Yeah, I have it.
Nice.
All right. Plugs.
All right, let's do them all again at the same time. I love that.
Yeah,
One,
that's
two,
good.
three, go.
2, 1.
Okay, follow me
You
on
can
Twitter
follow me
at
at
Lucky
Lucky
Science
One,
Society.
so
Talk
so
video
I'll
games and
follow
stuff.
Twitter
Yeah,
account.
Cool.
Movies.
Crabbies.
Crabbies.